So, we're fighting these husks. And we're actually doing fairly well. We've taken half of them out, and the other half are sort of bunched up in a reasonably manageable configuration in front of us.
And the weird, creepy gnome is getting very upset.
Because we've been killing a lot of his quote-unquote children and
things
brothers.
like, no, Xanthrax! He was my favorite. You killed my sister Xantara.
Yeah, he just came
They're
up.
all names that are inappropriate.
Yeah, I think he's just coming up with the names on the fly, really.
Actually, I realized after I was going to have people make a history check to know some information about those names, but I forgot.
Turns out they were all real people. No.
Well, I can probably mention it now because I can't imagine someone failing a history check to figure out that they sort of sound like Elvish names, but they're a little bit weird too.
So anyway, let me see how the fight went. Aurora was starting to have some trouble. She'd been badly pounded on last session. And Cricket had healed her up, but she was still kind of stuck on the front lines because she was using her weakness aura thing, and you have to be adjacent to people to use that. And just generally, we were kind of bunched up. It was kind of hard to be at range. So, basically, everyone's bunched up except for Hank. And Hank's really getting really, really angry. It's his speciality, but this is also a very good...
Well, and he got his anger back.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I mentioned this before the recording, but his brother was turned into a husk, and this guy keeps saying, "Oh, this is my brother," whatever. And there's a little bit of banter going back and forth because
he's
my
really,
brother George is way better than any of these guys, and
he's really pushing Hank's buttons.
And the guy's like, I don't like you, Hank. You can't be in our family, and your brother Jim can't be in our family either because you suck. And Hank's just like,
So the wizard, this necromancer, whoever this crazy guy is, he casts some spell that mirror images himself twice. So now there's 3 of them out there. I can't remember. I think he did that right at the end of last session.
So you leave the one your fork touched. Another dilemma.
yeah, I think he did that right at the end of last session, but it doesn't really matter.
So
There's 3 mirror images of him.
So the rest of us are fighting these husks, and we're going to win, but it's a bit of a slog. So Hank, in the meantime, runs up there to go and attack this wizard mano a mano, because he's just like that. Now it's mirror image, so he doesn't know which one is which, so he just grabs whatever. Just attack the nearest one. He runs up there, and I don't think he ever really gets a hit in on this guy, on any of these guys.
No.
It's quite sad, really.
Because they're up on like a cliff where the water's pouring down, so he has to climb the cliff, which he does well. But then he had to run to get there.
Yeah.
So his hit misses because you get a -5 for running. And then the gnome casts a spell where there's a flash of light, and now he's invisible to Hank. All the mirror images are invisible to Hank.
Yeah. So Hank has run up there, and this guy is now invisible to Hank. And there's 3 of them. So it's kind of sucks for Hank.
Yeah.
But he's angry enough that it really doesn't matter. He's just raging and hitting and rah, like that.
Mostly missing because the guy's invisible.
because they're invisible. He never hits anything. It's very sad.
He'd probably be very useful to dip.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps he was distracting that guy from, like, firing artillery on us while we were dealing with
Put him on the defensive.
the husks, yeah. So it wasn't like he was completely useless up there. It's just that he wasn't doing what he really wanted to do, which was hit this guy. So down amongst the husks, I don't know if there was really all that much of interesting tactics going on. We basically just fought the husks until they all died.
The biggest interesting thing was just that some of the husks, when you delivered a killing blow, they would like start falling over and get back up. They had an ability where if you drop them to 0 hit points without critting them, they roll on 15 or better. They live. So
yeah, I figured out this mechanic because I've heard it discussed before. but no one else at the table knew why these guys kept coming back, and it was really frustrating. And I didn't want to say anything because I hadn't rolled anything for it. So
There's not much they can do against anyway. It's basically just every time you kill them, they have a 1 in 4 chance of not dying. That's really.
But the thing is, though, they come back with just 1 hit point, so it's not that bad, really. It just means you got to hit them a couple times to make sure they stay down.
All zombies in 5th edition, basically when you take them below 1 hit point, they roll a saving throw, and if their saving throw exceeds the damage that took them below, they go back to 1. Not really annoying.
It's kind of similar, but yeah.
If you can do enough damage, then it goes right.
Yeah. So, but still, it was just a matter of time. Like, it was fairly clear that while the zombies had really hurt Aurora, their time was over. It was just a matter of putting them down now.
Cricket got to use Guardian's counter and took a shot for Aurora. I'm always so happy when I get to do that.
Aurora got paralyzed. One of the dog shifter husks bit her and sort of paralyzed her. And it was the exact same moment. So she was immobilized and dazed. And it also happened to drop her below 0 hit points. So I was just like, I said she just sort of stiffened up and just fell over like thump on her back. But she was saved from that.
Yeah, we got her. I don't think she even made a death throw because later in that same round we were like, yeah, you're back. Oh yes, that's right. The crawling hands. When you kill some of the zombies or the husks, their hands would start crawling around. Some of them actually got onto Cricket's throat and were strangling her, doing ongoing damage. And Cricket was too busy, like, healing Aurora and stuff like that to worry about trying to get him off. So she was just taking ongoing damage from these hamstringers. So she does Majestic Word to bring Aurora back. And I was like...
Not very majestic.
But it worked.
Gurgling word.
She gurgled majestically. And revived Aurora from her dire straits. So once we finally got all the husks put down, we turned to go and help with the fight with Hank, who's been ineffectually trying to hit these guys he can't see. And
getting madder and madder.
Oh, I'm very mad. So...
Thank you.
So then this wizard does a trick where in his 3 mirror images, he casts a spell.
Big flash of light.
And all 3 of his mirror images now look like Hank as well. We can't tell which one's Hank.
And they're far enough away that, like, sure they can see it on the battle board, but the characters have no idea which one is actually Hank.
Yeah. So throughout this fight now, we're starting to, like, try and call out questions that would reveal who is who and all that kind of stuff. And this wizard was pretty good at faking it.
Shout, if you're really Hank, duck and cover.
Yeah.
The real Hank would never do that.
It was like he had some kind of magical effect on his whole...
We had reverse and psychology tricks like that we tried, and that didn't help very much either.
The guy, like, there must have been some magical effect to this, like, illusion because, like, it was all the time before he was like, children! But now he was suddenly super good at being Hank and, like, yeah. I don't remember just
There
was a lot of banter back and forth.
Yeah, and I remember it was particularly amusing because I can't remember what triggered it, but one of the 3 mirror images cracked and went insane. Not the other 2.
It was because they mentioned about how they killed his whole family, and I forgot he kept saying, "You killed Daga. He had a family, and you killed them too."
So yeah, I really have no idea how that worked. That one of the mirror images cracked and flipped out, whereas the other mirror images were still, like, okay, we're gonna.
That's the real one.
It was fun. Well, no, because then wouldn't they be mirroring him?
Well, Yeah, so he stayed looking like Hank, but he just sort of cracked up and was like, I hate Hank so much. I hate myself. I wish I wasn't Hank. He's such a stupid, dumb barbarian, and I hate him so much. And he killed my whole family.
So we sort of like, okay, we know that one is not Hank.
Peeled back into one.
So it's funny because once we figured that he wasn't Hank, we sort of ignored it. Because, we've eliminated one. Okay, let's focus on the rest. So Serendipity Van Gildstrider Malor, she cast the spell. I can't remember what it was called. Do you remember what it was called, John? Was that the treasure pile thing?
I forget, but it basically makes like a magical treasure pile that everyone wants to go to.
Yeah. Everyone within the zone. Serendipity Van Gildstrider Malor.
It's like
Slayer of the Butcher of
lure
Wreck.
of some kind.
Yeah, basically everyone that's within 5 squares of this thing, every round it gets a will attack or something, and if it fails, you get pulled towards it.
Yeah, and you really want this treasure, even if you wouldn't normally even care about treasure. You're just like, it's a magical thingy.
Now, they were all up on the top of the cliff. It wasn't a very tall cliff, but getting pulled off the edge was still a saving throw thing. And they just kept making their saving throws. So no one was actually going for the treasure, they just kept falling down. So everyone's
there's all these eggs falling down up there.
Keep falling over because none of them are failing the saving throw and coming off the cliff. I think eventually one did.
Yeah, I bet you 2 did even. But it took a long time.
It took a long time. So for most of the time, this thing was just keeping them prone at the top of the cliff. And one of them is Hank. And he's like trying to hit the other guys.
Now, does Robert know which Hank is Hank?
Yeah, Robert knew and Hank knew.
Yeah.
But
we couldn't tell.
But the gnome also cast again the thing that made himself invisible to Hank. So like half the time Hank couldn't even see the Hank copies.
Yeah. So, and of course they're all pretending they can't see each other either, and they're all like, he's the one, no, he's the one. So, yeah, we can't tell. We're just completely flummoxed. Eventually, the wizard cast a spell again, which turned all 4 of them, disguised all 4 of them as husks.
That was because you figured out which one was the real one.
Yeah, we figured out which was the real one.
How did you figure it out?
There were 2 that had been pulled down together, and they figured that if one of them was the real Hank, so there's a guy that's cracking up. There's 2 guys there, and they figured if one of them was the real Hank, the other one would attack. One would attack the other. Now, one of the guy was like, "Hey, that's Hank," and ran off, and then the other guy also said, "Hey, that's Hank," and ran off. Now he could have also
the wizard.
Or the wizard, yeah. And now, that said, one of them could have run off and Hank could have chased them, but they figured they had irrefutable evidence that neither of those were Hank, so that left only one real Hank.
The one blubbering in the corner.
And whether their logic was good or not, they happened to be right.
And there were 4 Hanks. Okay.
There were 4 in total. 4 in total. One was Hank.
Okay.
2 got left up on top of the cliff. One was a blubbering wreck that clearly was not Hank. He'd broken.
I've already had
and 2 had come down because of the treasure thing. The 2 that came down didn't attack each other. They ran up to attack the one that was still up on the cliff. And that sort of indicated, clearly. Because if one of them was Hank, he would be attacking the nearest one. That's what Hank does. So now that we'd figured it out, he recast the spell and disguised all 4 of them as husks. So that once again we didn't know who was who. Was the blubbering one still blubbering though?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was out of the equation still because he's such a crazy wreck.
Could you just be like, okay, those 4 husks were Hank's second before?
There was a big flash of light, and actually I had to make a perception check because he tried to like run around and like use it, and everyone made a perception check, and everyone succeeded except for one person. So everyone was basically like, that was Hank before.
Yeah.
The real Hank, please put up your hand.
So we finally started hitting these mirror images. It took forever to get to this point, but now that we did, whenever we hit one of the mirror images, it would pop and disappear. They were like minions, right?
Yeah, there's one hit, they're gone.
So we cleared away the mirror images finally. And I can't remember, how did the fight end? I mean, we killed him.
Yeah, once the mirror images were gone, it was basically just Hank versus Hank, and
I kept trying to ask whether he was the operative we were looking for to give this box to.
Well,
but Hank just killed him.
Yeah, well, basically at the end, I remember he was just laying there like, you and your stupid brother Jim can't be part of our family. And he was like, his name was John! And killed him.
So that was that.
Meek, is that good?
And
Yeah, I like it.
we searched the body.
It's weird, but good.
And he was just some gnome, and he had like painted himself black strategically, like his face and hands were painted black.
Yeah, all of his exposed skin.
Wearing blackface. Great.
Yeah, and that wasn't it at all. Not that.
I've been deceived.
And also, John forgot something.
DM forgets the monster.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
During the fight, whenever we did will attacks,
Which was a lot because of that treasure pile.
yeah, we should have been rolling twice against him.
Yeah, he had an ability when you attack his will, you have to roll 2 dice and take the lowest. But that never
And if that had happened, that would have strongly suggested to me that, hey, this guy is a Kalash Star. And that might explain why he's so crazy about husks and stuff. It's all that. But it never really came up, so I never really figured it out. And yeah,
Rosa.
I mean,
It's better as you go.
I'm sure regular people go nuts too. It happens. People go crazy, especially in this world. It's so horrible.
And you mentioned that he had painted his limbs and whatnot black, but he'd also done that for a lot of the husks. They were also like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They searched him, but he didn't really have much on him except an old tattered gnome robe thing. And he had 3 bottles. 2 of them were empty, and one of them had this.
This stuff.
One of them had this viscous pastel yellow fluid in it, and they were about to open it. And,
Kind of like mango pudding.
Yeah, actually a lot like that, except maybe a little bit more yellow. But very
With
similar.
cream on top.
My first reaction was, oh no, he's got a bottle of urine.
Yeah, I said at first I just said it was yellow.
Yeah.
And then they're like urine, but then I was like no, it's like a pastel, very whitish yellow.
Crazy person you're in.
Yeah. So we don't know what gnome urine looks like.
Serendipity
Bengal Strider Malora.
made a great history check. She actually knew what this stuff was. It was helped by the fact that this is supposed to be an old brewery. It's Makir. It's an old Penoblin drink. It's essentially the like fermented kava. Kava is that stuff that Oblin drink that's like made out of like grease and like garbage and whatever, and they like love to drink it in the morning or whatever. And
It's like coffee to them.
yeah, but this is a Penoblin invention where they sort of fermented it and turned it into essentially their equivalent of alcohol.
I don't know.
And the way it works is,
Haven't decided whether you like it or not.
as you drink it, it kind of makes you drunk just like alcohol, but it focuses your mind on a single topic, so you can like focus on something, and so it's essentially like you're completely drunk except on one topic or one thing, which you're like a genius, right? And the more you drink, the more that happens, right? So, you know, like the Penoblin would have, you know, drinking parties where they would sit around and talk philosophy, and they'd be like just great at talking philosophy on this one topic. But you know, like they'd be stumbling over the furniture and like they can't do anything else.
You don't like it? All right, we'll split it up amongst ourselves. There we go.
It's too specific to like you couldn't use it to help you at your job because it's too, you know, it's too specific of a thing, and you can change it over the course of a discussion, but it just, you know, you can't just change it at the drop of a hat either. So anyway, and so they found this, and it's disgusting to non-Oblin. It's viscous. It has like the consistency of motor oil, and it smells and tastes like burnt plastic. So it's just gross.
But Oblin love it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a Penoblin drink. So Oblin don't really drink it per se, but it's you know, it's made for their physiology. It works on anyone, but they get less bad effects from it. They get less drunk from it for the same amount of focus. Anyway,
So basically, drunk Croesus. That's what this all comes down to.
So Croesus takes the bottle and thinks it looks interesting, and they're like, yeah, I'll take it. And then they search around some more, and they find like a back area where there are just crates and crates and crates of this stuff. As much as they can possibly carry, as much as they could ever want of Mac gear. And so Croesus takes as much as he can fit in his backpack, which we figured was about 30 bottles. And that was their great treasure, is a whole bunch of Penoblin booze.
Is that race?
What's that?
Well, he's Oblin, not Penoblin, but they're very closely related.
What's the difference?
The Penoblin kind of broke, like the Oblin are really obsessed with closing the crack and maintaining the law, but the Penoblin broke off from them, and they became obsessed with natural law. So sort of like they're like scientists, but they're like super obsessed with like figuring out natural law, and so they super advanced, and they became magical and scientific powerhouses. But the Oblin considered them heretical because they stopped caring about closing the crack and following the proper law. They were just caring about natural law, and then they all got nuked in a big magical apocalypse, so they're extinct. But all that's left are the Oblin.
Physiologically the same.
They're physiologically the same. They're just, but the Oblin wouldn't consider them Oblin because they're significantly different. It's just you're not an Oblin if you don't want to close the chasm and you don't want to obey the law. You're not an Oblin. You're kind of like an Oblin, but you're not really an Oblin. And the Oblin, the Oblin didn't like try to exterminate them like they do with the Goblin, but like they tolerate them and considered them heretics and
didn't invite them to any of their parties. So after we've done that, we've got that. We go try searching around one of the other tunnels in this cave. And we find the operative.
Yeah, they're coming around, and the guy's like, who goes there?
So pitiful. There's this guy, what was his name? Stanley. And apparently
Last name Tweedle?
No, I don't think John watched that show, so that was my thought too. But anyway, so Stanley, apparently, his life consisted of standing in this dank tunnel for 8 hours a day, waiting for us to show up.
I mean, probably not since he was born, but it's his job. He's part of he's at the diplomat's office. He's the intern. It's his job to stand at the place at 8 hours a day and wait for the guys delivering the package.
So he winked.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in the cave next door, there's this crazy wizard with all these husks and stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, that guy."
Yeah, they're like, "What are you? What? We ended up in this big husk battle." And he's like, "Oh, you didn't turn left, did you? Oh, sorry about that. They should have told you to turn right, didn't they? I'll have to mention that so they can tell them, for next time."
It's like they're tenants in adjacent apartments or something. They know each other's over there, and they're like very embarrassed about their neighbor, but they're like can't do anything about it. No, that's his cave over there. I can't go and evict him or something. Just try to ignore him. So the crazy husk guy, he's just over there.
Live and let live, man.
So it's like, all right, whatever. Do you have our pittance for us?
And he's like, oh yeah, I almost forgot. And he gave them their money. And,
all right.
And I think they asked him what was in the box, but he didn't really know. He was just like the intern, and he knew it was something important. So.
And we're like, whatever. Let's just go. And so we go. And the quest is complete. Yay!
You guys completed a quest.
Yes, we completed a quest. It was like one of our last official quests. So now our next step, we're headed for Grey Bridge. We want to get into Grey Bridge. And our eventual goal, I think our only real long-term goal right now is to get Aderon's ashes back to his homeland.
You're still tracking the truck?
But no, we're kind of like, holy crap, they're way out of our league. Let's avoid them now.
No, Aderon's ashes. You still have a little container.
Oh yeah, we still have them with us. Yeah, I thought you were talking about the wizard part.
The only real way to get across the chasm is at Grey Bridge.
Yeah.
They could have gone through the Titan Waste, but that seemed like a bad idea. So
yeah, it's a very bad idea.
And and I mean, and also Hank is from Grey Bridge, and so it's kind of good if he could check in with his commanding officer and be like, yeah, I didn't just desert. I was captured by these Warforged.
Basically, Grey Bridge is like a great hub for, like, we get there and then we can decide where to go from there. But we got to get there because it's a really nice place to get to.
And they do get there.
Yeah, we arrived there.
It's a huge city. It's a big city built on a huge bridge that's grown from the wavestones. Big, tall gates. The chasm is about 7.5 kilometers wide here, and so it's just a big city on a giant. Not exactly crystal, because the wastelands aren't quite crystal. They're kind of like what Croesus is made of in a way, but they're sort of stony, crystally rock.
Now, Croesus is having a bit of an issue here.
What's that?
Like gray quartz.
That's what I sort of imagine it as.
Yeah.
I don't know. I should maybe check with Tim since he invented them, but I kind of imagine it as being sort of crystally, sort of rocky.
Yeah.
So anyway, Croesus is having a bit of an issue at this point. He's never heard of Grey Bridge.
Yeah.
You know, it's the Grey Wall. You know, what's this Grey Bridge they keep talking about? That's not what we do. It's the Grey Wall. And so he's really confused. Plus, by this point, he's drunk out of his mind.
Well,
He's just been slamming back the Makir the whole time.
And not just because he's like, oh, I'll drink it, but he's very disturbed by the whole. When they actually get to Grey Bridge, that was when he takes his first swig because he sees Grey Bridge is real, and then he starts drinking.
So we come to the gates of Grey Bridge, and of course it's a mini cultural settlement, but it's run by the Oblin essentially. So there's rules, there's laws. You have to have papers. Hank has papers. Serendipity Van Goldstar Malore has papers. The rest of us don't. So we gotta go to the office and we gotta talk with the bureaucrat.
The slow line.
Yeah, we gotta say, okay, we'd like to come in. We'd like some papers. We gotta fill out some forms.
And there's this huge cluster of people. There's like 30 offices that you can go to, and it still takes like an hour to get through the line to these offices.
So we get into this office finally, and we're totally being nice and stay in line, follow the rules and stuff like that because it's a good idea to do that.
And the Oblin there's an Oblin at the desk, and he's just sitting there looking down, doing his papers. Like, all right, well, we'll start with your paperwork.
And he looks up
and sees Croesus and just stops.
Yeah.
And looks deeply concerned. And the party is just like, is something wrong? And the Oblin gets up and takes Croesus by the shoulder and says, would you like me to kill you?
Yeah.
And of course, Croesus is completely drunk. So
he's talking about singing.
He's talking about some song. He has this song, I don't even remember. This song, she sang this song and it was a healing song.
He's been trying to remember the song, and so he's like humming it to himself, and he's like trying to write out things, and so he starts talking to this guy about the song.
And just listen, I can kill you. And Croesus is just totally out of it.
And so we start trying to explain to him.
And of course, the party's getting upset. Hank's drawing his weapon because this guy is trying to kill Croesus.
Yeah, and we're trying to explain to him that it's...
He's just like, I can release you from this. I can kill you.
And so we're trying to explain to him that actually he's getting a lot better. He's been healing up, he's getting better, and recovering, and all that sort of stuff.
And they mentioned that he's drank this Makir stuff, and it's influenced him. And the guy was like, that's just really disturbing that, like,
there's a substance that
could do that. He's not even, he's a bad Oblin. It disturbs me that there's a substance that can make someone a bad Oblin. And he's, very upset by this, and the party keeps trying to push to, like, talk about paperwork and get through it. He keeps, like, sort of trailing off and staring at Croesus, and...
Cricket was there, and she's the party leader. And she also is like, okay, this is an Oblin, so as long as we can just keep the conversation focused on the rules, then they'll know exactly what to do and everything will go according to plan.
Right.
So Cricket kept on going in there so we need forms for a star and basically it was like that. And
there are rules to be followed.
There's some rules. We need forms and focus. We need forms.
So finally,
so he's like, okay. It's like, okay. And remember, Aurora was not born, so if there's a birth date on there, we can't do that. So it's okay. We got forms for people that don't weren't born.
at first he was like, yeah, you got to fill up form 42A and 57B, and you got to fill up form 77.3 in triplicate, and this one is in double. And
Cricket's
then
enjoying this.
Yeah.
She's doing all the paperwork for the party. This is awesome. She's doing paperwork.
if you weren't born, you have to fill out a Schedule 3, and we'll deliver that over to that guy, and he'll give you a 77.4AB that you can fill out, etc.
And then she's like, okay, and we're going to need a form to declare that the party has valuable, not cargo, but valuable goods that they're taking with us. It's like, okay, Cricket, there you go.
And there was a special one just for, because there's a lot of people who travel through. They weren't bringing them in the city to sell. It was traveling through the city. It's like, oh, then you don't need 44.7B. You need 44.7B-2.
Yeah, they're taking a valuable possession through the city. It's being declared not for sale within the city, but like that. And so Cricket fills out her form and brings it back to him. And he's like, no, wait a second. You're trying to smuggle yourself through as goods? And she's like, no, I'm not smuggling myself. I've declared myself very openly.
There were two problems with their paperwork. One is that, Cricket was declaring herself as goods, and the oblin insisted she fill out the same. Then she was saying she was a domestic, and he's like, oh, you want form A73, the slave release form.
And she's like, no, you're not getting it.
And finally, he insisted she fill out the same form for, that everyone filled out. The one where you don't have parents.
Yeah.
But,
and she's like, yeah, this is wrong, but whatever. He's got his rules.
And everyone got
stuck with them.
And everyone got excited because they were like, wait, does that mean that you think Cricket is a person? And he was like, yes.
And they were like, oh, yay! There's a form that says she's a person. And Cricket's like, but the form's wrong. I'm only filling it out because they're not going to let me in otherwise.
The other problem with the paperwork is they barely filled anything out on Croesus's form because he was completely drunk and couldn't answer any questions, right? They're like, so what's your batch number? He's like, the music. It was healing music.
Yeah.
I think I remember the song. Da, 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 da.
So we tried submitting Croesus's form with a whole lot of blanks in it. And like, we just don't know what these are. And he said, no, you have to fill it out. And so we're like, okay, what if we take Croesus away and sober him up and get him filled out and bring it back tomorrow? Not tomorrow, but a little later on. So we take Croesus away and get him sobered up, and we get him to fill out the form.
Serendipity took away all his smack here.
What was left of it?
Yeah. Well, I think he still has plenty.
I mean, he took 30 bottles and he only drank 2. So
he's still got plenty. So we get him sobered up and we get a bunch of these, the rest of the form filled out. And we fill it out honestly. And so he's putting in his batch number is a really low number. It's surprising. And we eventually figure out that he's about 500 years behind the times.
Yeah. Wait, he's constructed? What is he? He's the rock guy.
They grow them from
They're sort of grown from waystone. They're born in a sense. They just don't have mothers and stuff.
And I think they come in groups or batches, right? There'll be a bunch of waystones that grow together.
Stone, isn't he?
Yeah. Essentially, made of waystone. Yeah.
But he's crazy.
Sort of.
Yeah.
He's cracked.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with it.
Yeah.
I know what it is.
So anyway, so we get this thing filled out and we bring it to the oblin. And he's like, yeah, a lot of this information is weird, but it's validly filled out. But this is a damaged oblin, so there's still one thing. I'm going to be able to sign you into the city, but I can't let him leave until he has seen the elders. Or was the elders?
Yeah, he needs to see the elders and have them check him out because he's very concerned. It's a different oblin, but he has the exact same reaction. He starts talking, looks up, sees Croesus, and just stops.
Yeah.
And comes up to him and, do you want me to kill you?
Yeah. Every oblin is going to ask us this question. It's going to be really tedious.
I just love this.
We should
Do
get
you want to buy some
Croesus.
cheese? Do you want me to kill you?
We need to get Croesus a sign he can hang around his neck.
No,
that
I
says,
don't want to
No, I
die."
don't want you to kill me.
Get your peanuts, get your meat. You want me to kill you?
No, I don't want you to kill me.
But yeah, he agrees to let them in on the condition that they go see the elders, and he puts a mark on his papers that basically they won't let him out unless it gets sealed of the elders on it.
So Cricket starts thinking about how we can either fix the papers, forge them so that we can get them out, or smuggle them out, or something like that. But Croesus is like, no, we'll go see the elders. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're going to go see the elders. I don't think it's particularly wise, but Croesus wants to, and that's what's important.
Yeah, I mean, he insists on keeping his paperwork. I don't know if he seemed too keen on seeing the elders, but he was like, he wouldn't let them forge his paperwork to let him out. So
we may yet still have to do some weirdness to get him out.
Just get him drunk, forge the papers.
Well, I can't do anything against his wishes.
You can do things for the wishes of the other party members.
If they make me do it, yeah. So anyway, and that was basically the end of that session. And I mentioned to Johnny and I am that on the car ride home, like the moment that we got into the car to get home, everyone started talking about, okay, now that we're in this Greybridge city, let's find some professional deprogrammers for cricket. So that's going to be fun.
Cricket's in here.
They are determined to get your character to accept that he is a person.
They really want that badly, and it's like the one thing Cricket can't give them because it's not true. So,
well, they were so excited about that album, but he said yes, but it was almost just like, sure, like it's a dumb question.
Yeah.
Whatever. Sure.
Yeah. She has to fill out Form 42-B.
She's a person. According to the rules and the paperwork, she's a person. What's? I don't get the question.
And Cricket is like totally the opposite, exact mirror image of that. She's like, no, according to the rules, this is the way it is. This is the way the world works. No, this is the way the world works. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But ultimately, he had something we wanted, and he wouldn't give it to us unless we agreed with him. So I signed his form.
Acquiesce to his worldview.
Yes, unlike him, am willing to lie. So we finally arrived in Greybridge. Well, we arrived at the walls of Greybridge. To get inside, we needed to fill out some paperwork. This, I figured, was finally my time to shine. I'm very good with paperwork. In my former household, I did a lot of that sort of thing. Now, this isn't the Empire, but there's still fairly civilized people here, and so the paperwork was fairly well organized. We went up to the office, and I asked the oblin who was in charge of the paperwork for entrance to Greybridge for forms for all of the party members and myself. We needed CBP Form 378, Application for Identification Card, and also Supplementary Form 3229, Certificate of Origin. They had 3229B for those of us who didn't have an actual birth, and I tried to find forms for domestics. I found CPP Form 1302, Inward Cargo Declaration, and 1304, Personal Effects Declaration. Those were, I think, fairly close. So I filled all of those out. Unfortunately, Croesus was somewhat indisposed. I wasn't able to get a lot of information, so I had to leave a lot of blanks on his forms. I figured that might be a problem, and it was, but it turns out it wasn't the biggest problem. I brought in the 1302 to the oblin in charge of these things, and he was like, "That's not appropriate. You can't smuggle yourself in." And I'm like, "I'm not trying to smuggle myself in. Look, I'm declaring myself clear and proper. I'm as far as I can tell, the best fit is I'm this party's cargo. It's not going to be sold here in that town. I'm just being brought through. So there's no need for taxes or anything like that. And he was like, no, you can't be that. You can't be cargo. Well, I know I'm not entirely cargo. It's not quite appropriate, but I'm more party equipment. But there wasn't a declaration form for that. Personal effects declaration, I think, could have worked, 1304. But he was quite insistent. No, I needed to fill out a 3078 as well. Application for identification card. It was most inappropriate. But if those are their rules, I suppose I have to fill out the forms that they want for me to fill out. So I filled out a 3078. It was quite frustrating, but if they insist that I lie to them, I will lie to them. It's I don't make the rules. I just follow them, and I follow them well. So I filled out a 3078. And for myself, but unfortunately Croesus still had those blanks in his, and they were very insistent that they had to be filled out properly, so we had to take Croesus away and sober him up a bit. Oh yes, that's quite odd. He was a little bit tipsy from, this is not too important right now. So I filled out the 3078 for Croesus, and I brought that back, and my deceptive 3078, I'm quite concerned, actually, if someone was to examine that. They did have a form for me, but it was like some sort of liberation form or something like that, and that's just completely beyond the pale. It's not appropriate at all. So, yes, I suppose I could have filled out a CBP 28, which is a request for info form, to try and see if there's a higher level bureaucrat who might know a proper form for me. But I still have my 1302 inward cargo declaration, and I even filled out a 1304 personal effects declaration, but they didn't want them. They wouldn't take them. They seemed to think that I was trying to game the system somehow. I was being completely honest. This is very frustrating. Anyway, that was fun.
Man, some people just can't hold their liquor.
Well, we finally made it to Greybridge. It's good to be back. But, well, we've run into an interesting roadblock regarding Croesus and his own people. I can't really say I'm surprised, but they're quite in tune with how there's something wrong with him. And they aim to fix him, whether that means putting him down like a bad pet. Although I'm sure that's not their intention. It's not a pet. It's mercy in their eyes. But or bring him to the elder and do whatever the Oblin elder does. I don't even know. Yeah, I'm worried about him. I'm worried about what's going to happen. Maybe bringing him to the elder would be good, and they could actually fix him, although who knows what kind of implications that'll have. I know Croesus at least thinks that his current state is important, but I don't know. I care about the guy, and I don't want bad things to happen to him.
Dear Diary, today we rescued Stanley. He has this horrible job where he has to go into this creepy, dank cave with these weird, moaning, I don't even know what, around the corner, and just sit there for 8 hours a day, waiting for us to show up. Finally, we showed up, and I'm so glad we did not delay a single day longer. Poor Stanley. I felt so bad for him. I gave him some of my special ood food that I have been saving for my cat. I'm sure Parsley will... Parsley? Where is she anyway? Oh, right, I left her at the end. Whew. I'm sure Parsley will understand because, you know, Stanley had... what are they going to do now? I hope he doesn't get given a worse task. I wonder if he could retire early or something. I wonder what was in the box. I tried to get Stanley to tell me, but he wouldn't. Maybe I could, like, find him and make friends with him and he could tell me what was in the box. I'm really, really curious. Oh, yeah, and we might be trapped in this town now because Croesus can get in, but he can't get out unless the elders see him, and I don't know. It's hard to tell, but from the way he's been talking, it sounds like that's a bad idea. Also, we seem to have discovered that he's quite a while out of date, because if what Aderon told me is right, then it's the year something or other, which is like, I didn't remember, like, I don't really remember my last life, or my last waking very good, and so time has passed, and I think it's like that for Croesus, but I think a lot more time has passed. I think he's about 500 years behind, and I don't know anything about oblins, but I wonder what the elders will think about that. I don't think we should enter this place. I don't think it's wise to enter when we don't know if we can get out again. And I don't want anything bad to happen to my friend. Parsley really likes it, though. I found a liver stand.
Okay, guys. I have to admit, I've been delaying this because I've been really enjoying the stream so far. I mean, bits of it have been unpleasant, but it's just really distracting, and all of you guys are just great. And now the dream's trying to hurry me along because it's my duty to tell my story and wake up. And now I really think I should start telling my story right now because the dream's starting to have Oblin in it, and I don't want them to see me like this. So I'll start telling my story now. Before it began, there were the halflings. Little halflings hung around the Great Wall and did the odd jobs. My best friend was a guy, well, he didn't have a name, but we all talked about him as the Sweeper. He taught us how to fight with our hands open. And he was a really good friend. Actually, I had a lot of good friends at the Great Wall because they were Oblin and all of our hearts beat at the same time. But I was really close with my sister Chris because we grew out of the same waystone. It split in two. I think when it happens to other races, they call it twins. And she was in the front of the phalanx, the first row, the first shield, and I was first spear because she was so quick no one could touch her unless she wanted them to. And I was so strong no one could stop me. Chris and Croesus, the shield and the spear. Anyway, I guess it all... Well, the little halflings, one day they started to get sick. And at first they took care of it themselves, but one day they came and asked us for help because they said that there weren't enough of them well to take care of each other anymore. And they were getting really sick. They said they needed volunteers to look after the sick people. So the Oblin held a big meeting, and we got the halfling leaders, the brown robes, to come in and explain to us what a volunteer was. And they did, and we sat and we talked about it for a while. And none of us really understood what they were getting on about, but we told them that we just talked it over, and the first spear from every third shift would be a volunteer, and they said that would be okay. So that was me. I made soup. I got good at it. And the little halflings died. We couldn't do anything. I was so strong, but I couldn't fight it. I wanted there to be something for me to hit, for something for me to get my spear into, but all I had was soup. And they were so brave. The little sweeper, I came in one time. He was always talking about how we needed to empty our hands. And he waved it at me from across the room with a big smile on his face. And he said, Croesus, could you give me a hand here? Because mine seems to have fallen off. And I smiled, but I didn't feel like smiling, and I said, don't worry, it was always empty anyways. And he laughed, that little halfling laugh of his. And then he stopped laughing. And then the next day, everything started. My story started. It all started right here, in my finger, just a little black spot. But I'd seen it before. In my finger. I knew that it was gonna grow.